Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us for another episode of Stay Curious. With us today is Nick Thomas. Hello, Nick.
Good to see you, Mark.
Nick is the Chief Communicator out at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. He put 35 years out there. And we're going to talk about a day in the life of Nick's job out there. Many of you have seen him at the astronaut encounter. Locals like myself, you get $100 season pass, and every day you can see an astronaut and get an autograph and talk to them. Nick, how are you?
Doing fine, doing real good. Just, watching the weather and keeping my fingers crossed.
And we're going to talk about the weather and Nick's insight into how Kennedy Space Center handles this, the Artemis rollback. We understand. We've got it fresh from one of the photographers in our studio, Carlton Bailey. Hi, Carlton.
How you doing?
We're doing good. He's
I'm down here to see Mr. Nick.
all right. He came down here.
I forgot.
Yeah, and he didn't. Did you bring your $20 for the autograph for Nick Thomas?
Yeah, he's
And my photograph. Okay, so
I'm working on an account set up for me.
He's pleading out for that first roll of black and white film he loaned me 40 years ago.
there you go. Yes, interest. People don't forget. We got Marty Winkle on our Streamlabs computer there. Marty, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Well, we had quite an event this weekend, didn't we, Marty? And we're going to first talk about the Base for Space and the Hyatt Place Hotel behind me that hosted our world premiere of the DVD Base for Space by producer Mike Cotton and executive producer and demolition expert Pete Charamut. We're going to see a picture of them here. Just let me bend it up there, the Base for Space there. Nick, I know you were busy, but we did have we could always use a bigger crowd, but we had a lot of appreciative people there to watch this world premiere of this movie, and we had helping us. Yeah, there we are. I thought I hit forward. Bruce Melnick there. There's astronaut Bruce Melnick on the left. And that's Pete Charamut, the executive director, demolition guy. Boy, he really gave a great talk on how they did it. And Mike Cotton behind you there. Thank you, Mike and Pete, for donating the proceeds of the crowd to our museum there. And we had some people that were in the documentary and other people that I'm going to ask Nick here. It's just not a hunk of flat metal to people. This was a living, breathing mobile launch platform, too, that launched all of the Saturn 1Bs for our Skylab program, a couple Apollo moon shots, and about 40 shuttles were launched on there. And we're so appreciative to Bruce taking his Sunday afternoon to come. And he's kind of your boss out there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in charge of the astronaut program out there, and he'll round up the folks that we'll have for the year. We usually do it in like 3-month increments, and Bruce will make the calls and set the people up, and then pass the baton over to me, and I'll take care of the weekly requirements. But Bruce is responsible for having, among other things, opened this program up to a great deal more astronauts. We currently have 40 men and women in the office right now, and much of that is due to Bruce's efforts. Another thing he did was he changed our scheduling, our daily scheduling, in such a way that was more efficient, got more work done, but was also very easy on the astronaut in that we at least have 15 minutes between events where the astronaut can catch a breath and then press on. And he's just been great for the program, and we've enjoyed working with him. We still enjoy working with him.
And privileged to be with you and getting to know you even better, Bruce. He's really embraced what we're doing here at the American Space Museum.
I will tell you a story about Bruce.
All right.
On one of his missions.
Mention this, though. He's the...
Yeah, he is the first Coastie in space, first representative of the Coast Guard. He's a Coast Guard Academy graduate.
And they're busy right now.
They're very busy, absolutely.
With the hurricane season and
but
what's happening.
On one of his launches, Bruce played his intercom communications on board the vehicle, and there's a period where you go through a sustained 3Gs as you're heading uphill before main engine cutoff, and you've got the pressure on your chest, and you're put into a forced breathing regimen, which is along the lines of drawing a breath in is hard, but letting it out's real easy. So Bruce is in the middle of this regimen, and he's just breathed in. He's just got his lungs full of air. And somebody tells a joke, which you can hear on the ICOM. And Bruce says, "Don't make me laugh. I'll lose my air." So.
That's a good one. This is the easiest show I ever do, Marty, for Stay Curious, because all we've got to bring is Nick Thomas in here, wind him up, and these wonderful stories here, Nick. And it means a lot, folks, you regulars watch Stay Curious for over 2 years, that you want to be part of this, and we really appreciate that. And we're having fun with it. And
really enjoy it.
Thank you. And it does nothing but great public relations for our little humble museum. You look around here, now you've been here 3 or 4 times, new things stick out to you, don't they?
Well, everything sticks out to me. The scope of your collection, shall we say, here is really, really breathtaking. And we had the chance, as you remember last week, to talk to Kathy Thornton, who donated one of her flight suits here.
Mm-hmm.
And as you told Kathy, her flight suit is one of the most popular exhibits out here. That whole women's room, if you will.
Yes.
Lining up the history of women in American human spaceflight is very impressive. So, yeah, I'm impressed with the entire scope of the whole thing. It really is. Some people would say it is eclectic because you got a little bit of everything, which is really quite exciting. So you turn around, you turn in the corner. It was like those scrapbooks you showed me last time I was here. Those are just breathtaking. That one collection of one guy, all those scrapbooks, and such exacting work that he did.
Yeah.
You don't find that at a usual, quote, museum. So that's one of the great things about the American Space Museum is you have such a wide array of different exhibits that people can come and enjoy.
Well, you've well put there, and he's talking about a collection of newspaper articles that were laid out in a huge scrapbook by a gentleman in Michigan that bequeathed them to the museum, and they're really I say every shuttle is what I'm trying to say is documented in there from Atlanta newspaper, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland. That meant a lot to us growing up, the newspaper stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't so much to this new generation launching
This
the
generation
SpaceX
doesn't know
rockets.
about newspapers.
But there, I say, Nick, the story's there, but what story's not there when you look at it in total? And that's what we enjoy doing at the American Space Museum, is talking about the shuttle legacy. And we're glad that you get that by sharing your association with the shuttle legacy out there. One more great picture here of inside the Mobile Launch Platform, Mobile Launch Platform 2. This is one of the pictures inside of this massive thing that was like a battleship. Marty, you've been in it. Tell them what it was like to you when you were inside that. But this looks like a steampunk alien movie set or something. But amazing. But what was it like for you to go inside that Mobile Launch Platform?
Well, I never served on a battleship. It just reminded me below deck of an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I went in there, I had the same thoughts, the same hatches. And it was built by a naval manufacturer or ship manufacturer.
Yeah, sure was. Well, we hope everyone's enjoyed the weekend. We are on hurricane alert here, of course, on the west, all over our peninsula of Florida here. The 5 years I've lived here, I did have Irma right away.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't know how it's going to affect the museum yet. That decision will probably be made tomorrow. We might close for a couple days. It doesn't look bad that we might get out the tarps on our stuff. We're going to talk about Nick and what they're doing at Kennedy Space Center here in just a second. But I thought I'd share with you all what a SpaceX rocket looked for my neighborhood the other night. And I get an alert on my phone. In fact, I get the emergency operations alert.
Yep.
That's a very good thing to have, isn't it?
Yep.
That tells you that there's now a launch window opening. And so you go outside. No neighbors out there at all. I'm the only one, watching it go up there. So, if I make you jealous up there north of the Mason-Dixon line,
So be it.
So be it. That's why we live here, right?
That's why
Nick?
we're here.
Gosh, you've seen, like Marty, just hundreds and hundreds of launches.
No two are alike. It's always exciting. Every time is the first time, and whether it's a satellite or a crew going up, it's just always breathtaking. It's always exciting to realize every step of the way. what this endeavor entails, which is to say the thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people in support roles who make all this possible.
That's right. We had a little jellyfish, we
yeah.
call it, situation there. People on the Carolinas, even up to Washington, I think New Jersey even saw this go up there. And I've got friends that are stargazers in the Carolinas that photograph it. They're pretty far in the coast too, over by the mountains, and there you can see it's a chevron of it chugging up there from their thing. This is actually for that's not the Korolev star. That, you know what the Korolev star is?
Yeah,
the star of this that the boosters make of the Soyuz rocket after the great designer Korolev. That is actually the two rockets. The second stage is lit. The first stage is coming down, and the other two in the middle are the motors of the fairings, bringing back those fairings that people are ignoring. That Musk is now reusing the fairings that save him a couple $1 million each launch. These billionaires know how to save money on stuff.
Well, that's how they become billionaires.
Exactly.
And my understanding is that when you use a reused SpaceX first stage, you're realizing a savings to launch savings along the lines of 14%, and that's not small. That's good business.
It is. They've launched one of them 14 times,
Yeah,
Nick.
yeah.
Can you believe that? Well, I went out and took this picture just a few hours ago out at Space View Park, and that is actually Chris Tatum. I got this young man's name walking by there, Chris Tatum. Thank you for letting me share your picture there, for being my model. I wanted to know let him know what I was doing after I took the picture. But there is the rocket in the background there. This is our look around as you're driving down the road and make sure it's still there. And one of the gazebos reaching out to the Indian River.
Yep.
We're literally 9 miles away from the launch pad there. So, Nick, give us a latest update of what's going to happen the next 24 or 48 hours.
Well, right now with the approaching storm, NASA is going to roll the vehicle back to the vehicle assembly building. This is going to clear up a lot of things. For instance, it'll clear up those FTS batteries, the batteries for the flight termination system. We can get those changed out and get that issue behind us. But a move like this does not come simply. You don't just start up the engine, come back, and close the doors. You've got to demate all of your ground support equipment here. Those are your propellant and power and data lines. Those have all got to come off and get checked out. Then you start the roll, and the roll back to the VAB is probably going to take about 10 hours. And then once you get inside the VAB, you make all your inspections to make sure nothing got jostled on the way back, because a rollout, as benign as it seems, is still a very dynamic event that can impart vibrations and so forth along any part of the vehicle and any of its parts. So you go in there after you get to the VAB and you check all those systems and make sure nothing got jostled too terribly. You go in to change out the flight termination system batteries and then make all of your assessments and then get ready to roll back to the pad. And then when you get back to the pad, again, you've got to hook up all of your ground support equipment. You've got to make sure that it's in good shape and everything's performing properly. And only then can you say, okay, here is the launch window that we want to go for. Now, currently, we conceivably have two launch periods available to us, period 27 and period 28. And period 27 extends from October 17th through the 31st. With all that checkout that I mentioned, that's not going to be too terribly likely. So the chances are you're going to be looking at period 28, which extends from November the 12th to November the 27th.
When Thanksgiving, what day's Thanksgiving, Carlton? Look up there on my chart, please. Thanks. That's there from the horse's mouth. Great information there. It occurred to me that they. Pardon me, when's
24th.
24th is Thanksgiving Thursday. So, boy, that'd be fun down here in the Space Coast with all the attractions full.
And all the family coming to town.
All the families coming to town. Yeah. And who's going to fight over the turkey legs out there. Marty, you were involved in a couple Apollo events around Thanksgiving, weren't you? Your career working for Grumman. Go ahead.
Well, between Grumman and on Space Shuttle, yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about the late November launch, sell more shirts for the museum.
There is that
we
too.
Go. Exactly. Hey, yeah. The hotels don't mind filling up and then, let's having a scrub and redoing it again. In fact, they already had some people that bought out,
Couple of cycles.
yes, already. And, it's a, can I stay or should I go, to our good friends Tom and Mark Usiak, hi brothers, up there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they're just two of several hundred photographers, and then there's another 400 or 500 people of radio and print media, social media, I guess today.
As Carlton will tell you, this is a tremendous commitment for any professional who's covering this or any other launch. And when I say professional, I mean everybody across the board: photographers, reporters, Facebook, social media people, and so forth. Because you've got to be prepared to commit to that particular time frame. It's not an easy life. Everybody thinks it's a pretty carefree gypsy life, but there are a lot of decisions that have to be made and a lot of disappointments that have to be ridden out. But that's welcome to the launch business.
Yes, exactly. And the news business, as I spent my career, my early 20s and 30s in, and it's like a gypsy at times, right, Carlton? Camping out and so forth. So nobody has their cameras out there, right?
No.
You never did put anything out on Sundays, so.
No. In fact, it's basically closed down now. They opened back up today for the DART mission, I think was supposed to happen today, Landon.
Yes.
And they're going to open up in the morning briefly, if you've already been badged, to get some shots of the rollback. But other than that, then they go into hurricane prep and they're shut down for a while.
Okay. Y'all can hear Marty there, or Carlton Bailey there. Thank you, sir. I think in a way that the engineers might be saying, we can get that thing inside and really work it over again.
Well,
is that a consideration, you think?
I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we have the chance to learn more about this new vehicle under these conditions. Now, for the average person waiting for a launch, I understand it's quite a frustration, but for the engineers, this is a chance to learn about this vehicle in different modes as far as rollback, checkout, breaking the GSE and reinstalling it and so forth. So this is a big chance for us to learn more about this new vehicle, which is very important.
We're talking with Nick Thomas, lead communicator out there at Kennedy Visitors Complex. You all, if you've been at the astronaut encounter, you've seen Nick do his thing out there. We're gonna show you that here in a few minutes. We've got another question.
Yeah, Mark Usiak is asking Nick, will they open up the Saturn V building launch viewing spot again?
I expect so, Mark, but I think what's going to happen is most of that is going to be for NASA VIPs, as it was on the first attempt. I think the first attempt, 80, maybe 90% of the people that we had booked for Saturn V were NASA guests. So I would expect that's probably going to be the case again for the next launch attempt.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Thank you all for watching on Stay Curious today. Before we leave this, Nick, Mike Leinbach launched 37 shuttle missions. I've always surprised to hear him say his job was to keep the shuttle on the ground.
His job was to say no. That's correct. Show me that it's safe to launch, and then we'll go. But until then, we ain't going nowhere.
Did he ever tell you how many checklists there were?
Gosh, no. But
22,000.
I believe it.
Checklists to launch to items to check off. 22,000 is what.
And think about
Mike Leinbach said.
And think about yourself as a member of the launch team on a console, and it comes around for you to say go or no go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna feel that responsibility.
Yeah. It's that's and we appreciate Mike Leinbach for staying curious with us from time to time.
And for his leadership across the years at his time as a launch director for the shuttle, because he was absolutely first class.
Absolutely. If people want to go out and chit-chat with Mike Leinbach, how would they do that?
He's out there twice a month doing what he calls a launch director tour. So if you go to our website, I expect we'll have that up on the website as to when his next opportunity will be.
Yep, I'm going to try to go out there November 10th and celebrate my birthday. It was November 3rd, which is my birthday,
Okay.
but he said they moved it back a week. I better look because that $75 is worth spending, and he said it sells out pretty quick,
Yeah, it
about
does.
40
Yeah, it does.
in there. So Well, once again, want to look at that picture of Artemis there on the launch pad back there. It's been out there since when they roll it out, Carlton, first time. The first launch was August 29th. So they rolled it out about August 17th or 18th,
Then
right?
they brought it back in.
Yeah,
and
I mean they
rolled it
brought back
out.
in.
Mhm.
Is there a number of limited rollouts, Nick?
There is a number of times they can roll to and from the vehicle assembly building, but we are well within that window, and that's not a concern right now.
Is that a concern on the rocket or the crawler?
It's a concern on all the elements involved in the rollout, particularly in the rocket, particularly in the GSE connections that remain attached during that rollout, and of course the bolts that hold the solid rocket booster down onto the platform. You've got to understand every time you move that thing, even though you're moving at less than 1 mile per hour, you are putting rates and vibrations and so forth on that whole stack, both on the tower and on the rocket. So when you get to your destination, you want to inspect all those areas to make sure nothing is jostled loose or has been hurt by that transport. So that's a very important consideration. But like I say, we are well within limits as far as how many times you can roll that vehicle back
Good.
and forth.
Well, we know one thing for sure: those lightning towers work.
Yeah, they do for a fact.
Because not every photographer out there got a
very
picture of
got
them
some
and triggered
very
their
pretty pictures
cameras.
out there too. I imagine Carlton got some of those pictures. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's an exciting thing to see. It's just nerve-wracking for the engineers.
Indeed. All right. Well, we're going to move on with our Stay Curious program here and talk with Nick Thomas about sort of a day in the life of him and the visit that we see in the public. In my 5 years on the Space Coast, I've been out there 40 or 50 times, I'm sure. And you were always very consistent. And though at times you could maybe lose your patience, never see you have ever done that. I mean, there's no need to do that. But very professional how Nick conducts this introduction of the astronauts out there.
If you establish and maintain a rhythm, that's 90% of the effort out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It is, and I agree with that. There's a rhythm to everything in life, and that's a beautiful way to put it. Well, here is where the magic happens, where you can meet an astronaut. You go in, and you're goggle eyes at the rocket garden there, and I tell people, you got all day to see that. All right, turn right and see if you're there to see the astronaut, and if not, keep on going and hop on a bus first so you can get first out to see the Saturn V rocket, and they'll bring you back any time. But Nick, as we look at this, tell us what the hurricane level is out there and
Right
what
now-
you're getting ready for.
Right now we're at what's called Hurricane 4, which is Hurricane Condition 4. Basically a mode where you're securing any loose items that might get caught up in winds. After that, you would approach Hurricane 3, which would mean you're about 48 hours away from sustained winds of 50 knots. At that time, the ride-out crew is assigned. The ride-out crew or the ROT are the group of people who will stay on base during the hurricane. And when the winds go away, it's their job to go out and assess the damage and kind of triage the Space Center. That's to come back and say, okay, this is broken, that's broken, and they need to be addressed in order of 1, 2, and 3. So it's a very important function that the ride-out team performs.
So you're at level 4, then you go
Yeah.
level 3,
Yeah.
and then 2, 1. You guys
Yeah.
are always counting backwards.
Yeah, by 2.
Whereas the hurricane
force of
and
habit.
weather, Noah goes up.
It's going
with
up.
the hurricane.
But Hurricane 2, that is when all non-members of the ride-out team would be excused to get home, take care of their homes and their families and so forth.
I think most of our space geeks out there have heard this, but what was the maximum winds that the Artemis SOS rocket was supposedly rated for?
I would have to go back and research that.
I heard
off the
actually
top of my head.
73 miles an hour,
Okay.
which is the lowest level of a Hurricane 1.
Mhm.
Is that right, Carlton? Somewhere.
Right,
a little over 70.
73.
I wouldn't want to get up to that. I
And-
mean, why?
75 is hurricane level, right?
Yeah. So, okay, well, good, and that's what we like about Nick and all of our Stay Curious guests. You don't know the answer, you don't say the answer. We're about facts here, and we know the space business is facts. Well, let's go behind the scenes here and have some fun with a couple astronauts and Nick on a couple programs I saw recently here. of course, tell us what two rockets we're looking at.
Yeah,
Nick.
we're looking out on the left. We're looking at the Titan II with the Gemini spacecraft up on top. And an interesting story about that Titan II, we found that at Davis Mountain out in Arizona, which is where all
South
their
of
planes,
Tucson.
right, go to.
Yeah.
It's the elephant burial ground. And there were, I think, 6 or 7 of these Titan IIs that were headed for the wood chipper because they were supposed to be destroyed as part of a treaty compliance with the Russians. And one of our guys who went out there from Delaware North, he was in charge of artifacts and things of that nature. And he saw this thing. He said, man, he says, let us have one of those things. We'll put it on display here at Kennedy. And so they looked at it, they considered it, and they finally approved the transferal. But environmental safety spent 2 years inspecting that rocket to make sure there were no hypergolic fuels left in any of the pumps, the lines, or anything before they released it to us. So you're looking at, it's all actual flight hardware out there except for the Mercury Atlas. But that's one with a special story. And to the right, that Titan II that you see there was the type of Titan II that was launched from Complex 17. And if you look closely, you can see that distinctive shark prow design on the payload fairing. And that was done whenever the Air Force launched a Global Positioning Systems satellite. So that's what the reasoning is behind the shark's prow. And of course, that goes back to the Flying Tigers, flying the missions over China back during World War II.
Nick, where does the Gemini capsule come from? Does it have a provenance that you know?
No, the Gemini capsule is a mock-up,
Okay.
as are all the spacecraft on top of those rockets out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we go inside. You walk in there. Of course, there's the astronaut hasn't come out yet, but this is Guy Gardner. He really gets the crowd going, and he's an astronaut that interacts with everybody in there. And each one, you've learned over the years, has their own way, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things about Guy is that he is a former mathematics and physics teacher in high school. And he was also president of 2 schools. So he knows how to speak to a group of people, whether they are students or older folks and so forth. So he's got a very good touch with the folks. He's also a highly experienced test pilot. And in fact, was a commandant out at Edwards Air Force Base for some years. So he's got some great experience going for him.
We'll talk more about Guy here in his talk in a minute. Mike Baker, I also saw out there a couple weeks ago. And this is where you come in and you sit down and you see this up there before you come out to introduce the astronaut. And tell them about what people are entertained with before they see it. So
we have a brief 5-minute video about it. Basically covers the breadth of the human spaceflight program from 1961 to the present, or to the shuttle, I should say. And basically it was a piece of film that was made by NASA for NASA employees. Now, when this film was made, there was a lot of controversy about what was called the Constellation program and whether we should do it and how we should do it. And there are a lot of people on the outside telling NASA, how they should do their job. So if you see this video, it basically lays out the whole history of our manned spaceflight program. And then at the end, there's a great quote by Teddy Roosevelt, which basically is the story of the man in the arena, which is to say, on the day of a bullfight, the seats are filled with critics, but the only person there who knows is the man in the arena. And that's what NASA was telling their people. So, you're going to hear a lot of harping, you're going to hear a lot of criticism, you're going to hear a lot of, we should do this, we shouldn't do that, but you are in the arena. You are the one who knows, not them.
And the future does not belong to the faint of heart.
Absolutely.
And, I've seen it a lot, and you've seen it a lot. I can't imagine how many times you've seen it, but it's inspirational every time I see it.
It's still
kind of like you said, Kennedy's great speech at Rice.
It's akin to that.
You get motivated and you're ready.
And more importantly, it lets the man and woman in the street realize where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Not only what we have accomplished, but the responsibility the team has to do these things right, regardless of public or political pressure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a big flag waver. I've got them around the room here. One of my favorite images is the kid on top of the car with the big
waving
American
the flag
and the Saturn V's going up in the background. That's one of my favorite images there. So Nick comes out and introduces the astronaut. I noticed a couple of them, like Jack Lausma, you know his biography by heart.
Yeah.
You didn't even come out with any papers or anything, but I saw you with Jack. Didn't have time to throw him in there. But does the astronaut ever tell you anything like, I want you to say this or don't
I'll
say
put
that?
together a bio, a brief bullet point bio about hometown, education, experience, selection by NASA, flight experience, and then anything ancillary after that. And I'll always run that by the astronaut. Say, is there anything I need to add or anything I need to change here? And by and large, it's a pretty straightforward proposition.
You never know the crowd size, you know. I've been in there where there's a lot of people outside, but they don't come in, and very few people outside. And boy, there's like, half people in there. It's always a roll the dice.
But more importantly, you never know the crowd dynamic, which is to say you can have a large crowd and just not at all engaged for whatever reason, or then you can have a small crowd that's totally engaged, asks great questions, and they've got a lot of enthusiasm. So, yeah, it is a roll of the dice, but you know that going in.
Yes. Well, there's one of the things that you do a lot. You always ask for questions at the end, and
I see you chose to highlight my stomach on that shot.
oh, yeah, I see.
Thank
Yeah,
you for that.
sorry there.
Yeah.
On there, I've got a better.
We need to talk about angles next time.
I will. Because I didn't get the time to Photoshop it for you. All right, that's we've been so busy here, gratefully so, at the museum.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a few popular questions that we could imagine everybody asks. Tell us about the
Absolutely.
questions. A little bit.
A lot of the questions come along.
There's another better shot of you than Guy answering the question there.
A lot of the questions come along the lines of, how did it feel to ... How did it feel the first time you looked out the window? How did it feel on the launch pad for your first time, and things of that nature? And some astronauts are more comfortable with others talking about what they call touchy-feely questions.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, we had a 10-year-old kid put his hand up one day and say, what is delta V and why is it so important?
Wow.
So we went into an explanation about change of velocity and how it factors into what we're doing. So you can have those questions in a wide range. Some of the more common questions are, how do you go to the bathroom in space?
Number one, huh?
And have you seen anything strange up there, which is code for, have you seen any aliens? But then again, you get a lot of questions that I don't say come out from left field, but they're very, very deep questions, like, how did your family react to your career of being an astronaut? Some very, very deep questions that we get as well. So it's always exciting. It's always exciting for the astronaut. You don't know what's coming next, and it's a lot of fun. In fact, I think many of them would say that the Q&A is their favorite part of the show.
Mm-hmm. Tell us how they handle the question of the two tragedies. A young man the other day said, "Have any of the shuttles ever wrecked?"
Yeah.
And they're so young and naive about the tragedies. And I thought Kathy Thornton's was kind of what most astronauts say. Yeah, most of the questions coming along the line of, how did you react to the tragedy? You were in the office, you were flying. How did that affect you? And of course, by and large, the answer is, we all put our shoulders to the wheel to find the solution to the problem. Barbara Morgan, who was the backup for Chris McCullough, she had a great answer. And she said that when Challenger happened, she felt the most important thing to consider was, how are the kids going to react to what the grown-ups do? Are we going to press forward and continue, or are we just going to fold up our tent and slink away? And I think Barbara's view of that was very, very good and very, very insightful, not only for the kids, but for the adults in the room as well. So come out there and see it. Believe you me, it's you're missing out. But this is not the only event. How often do they do this? And then, but they have a whole day out there. Yeah, they have tell us about the morning meet and greet, and then this, and then the astronaut encounter in the theater. We do that twice a day at 11 o'clock and 2:15. And let's see, excuse me, let me get that right. That's 3:15 for the second AE. And I was just kind of jostled by the fact you've got that STS-35 patch behind Guy, and that vehicle, that orbiter, rolled back and forth to and from the vehicle assembly building more than any other orbiter in the program.
they too had hydrogen leaks, and they found out later on it was due to debris inside the mobile launch platforms that perforated the fuel lines of the vehicle. But they had to roll back and forth several times. I think, what was it, Carlin, like 10 times they had to go back and forth?
At one point, I remember going out there, and it was going in the VAB when 38.
When you were passing 38, right?
Right back out. So it got put way back in.
So when these guys got back home, they received a certificate from the KSC team, giving them the honor of having the most mileage on a crawler transporter for one orbiter going back and
Is
forth.
that right?
Yeah.
That'd be Vance Brand, and Guy
Vance,
Gardner
yep.
was the
Mhm,
pilot
yeah.
there. Lounge, Hoffman, of course, Parker, Parise, and Durance were
Sam
the
Durant was
astronomers
that
on
too,
there.
yeah.
That launched December 2nd, 1990, according to my
And it was a long time getting there too.
official Stay Curious scroll
Yeah.
here. They launched 38 ahead of it
Yeah.
there on November 15th with Atlantis on a DoD mission. Covey, Culbertson, Meade, Springer. Oh, yeah, that's our good friend Bob Springer,
Yeah.
and a guy that is always a great guest, Sam Gemar,
Oh yeah, Sam.
out there at
Yeah.
your Space Center. Seen him before on there.
Biff
so.
to his friends.
Who?
Biff to
Oh,
his
Biff.
friends.
Biff to his friends. Well, we'll have to find out about that later on there. Well, the astronauts also, you can pay to have them a one-on-one with them in the morning, correct?
Yeah, that is a special event called Chat with an Astronaut, and that is an extra ticket beyond the admission ticket. And we cap that at 40 people, and we run that at 10 o'clock, and we run the second one at 1 o'clock.
How's those working out?
Excuse me, 2 o'clock, I'm sorry. They're working out very well. We're getting a lot of people. We're getting a lot of enthusiastic families who are coming to this thing. And the young people who are asking the great questions at Chat with an Astronaut, they come prepared. Quite often they'll have a page of questions in front of them.
Is that right?
And they'll be all ready to go. And the parents are obviously just there to pay the admission and hang back while the kid does the thing. So
Yeah.
that's great. The kids carry the ball on something like that. But we'll also have older people, people who are veterans of the launches here in Florida and want to find out a little bit more close up and personal as to what it's like on board the spacecraft at any given time. So, yeah, we have a wide range of people come into that show, but all very enthusiastic and all with great questions.
I know Jack Lawson really enjoyed that when we hung out with him.
Yeah.
He said there were some very technical questions, and
Yeah.
Jack liked answering the technical questions.
And Jack-
86, his memory is awesome.
Jack always kids me. He says, "Don't take any of the kids. They ask the toughest questions."
Is that
They
right?
do. They ask some of the more insightful questions, but Jack is very good about answering all of them.
Well, you don't have to spend money to get close to an astronaut or get an autograph, because after the 11 o'clock and then the 3:15 talk, they go up to the gift shop. You take them up there, and there is their name in the distance there, where you all set up a table. We'll see some close-ups of that. But what's this red metal structure here that you have spanning the second floor of the gift shop, Nick?
This is the portion of one of our Apollo launch umbilical towers, and this is a portion of one of the swing arms that went over to the capsule itself.
So
Now-
Apollo astronauts actually walked
Yeah,
across that.
You're walking in the footsteps. Now, I would be hard pressed. I would have to go back and find out which LUT this came from to tell you which cruise
LUT.
went
Now
across.
wait, you got
Launch-
acronyms there. We need to clear up the LUT.
Launch umbilical tower.
All right, Marty's
So,
been on that a bunch of
I
times.
would have to go back and research and find out which one that came from to tell you who walked across it. But the very fact that you're walking across a piece of real estate, you're literally walking in the footsteps of American astronauts. That's a pretty big plus.
It is.
Yeah.
That was a really a beautiful design element
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the remodel they did a couple of years ago, right?
Because we used to have that particular swing arm on display out in the rocket garden leading up to our Apollo mock-up.
Yeah, I got a picture of me on. I was wondering if that was the one or the one at the VAB was the one in the rocket garden.
But the one the one in the VAB is exclusively shuttle. This one is exclusively Apollo.
I take that back.
Yeah.
The Saturn V Center.
Okay.
The one at the Saturn
okay,
V
yeah,
Center,
right.
where you
right.
go from the Apollo
Yeah.
1 tribute
Uh-huh.
to the. Is that a real?
No, that was a real piece of
I
a
didn't know
launch
if that
umbilical
was the
tower
one that
as
was in the
well. Yeah.
original.
Again, I don't know which particular launch umbilical tower it came from, but it is actual flight hardware, for lack of a better description.
Well, and if you want to go back and look at one of the program we did a couple months ago with Nick, or less than a month ago, we did kind of look at the Kennedy Visitors Complex by decades. That was fun to look at the growth of it over the decades. And
A lot
those
of memories.
programs are on our YouTube channel and also our Facebook library. So, well, let's get close up here. One of the things that you've done, they have a beautiful electronic billboard up there. And one of the things that you do is take people's pictures. You have you ever thought about how many, you used to hold cameras. Now they're smartphones.
Smartphones. Occasionally I get a camera. And one time, years ago, I was handed a Hasselblad camera. And my heart just beat like a trip hammer because that's a very expensive piece of equipment. And that was not going to be my day to drop a camera. I knew that. But like you say, by and large, it's smartphones now, and they're very easy to handle once you've gotten the drill down as to focus and flash and all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, and look at this beautiful family there with Guy Gardner. That's just that picture will be on. The kids will take it to school, and
that's the fun of looking through that viewfinder and realizing how they're going to treasure this particular picture for years to come.
They could be from Michigan, South Dakota, Asia,
they could be
wherever.
From Germany, they could be from Australia, they could be from Great Britain, anywhere around.
Well, I hear a lot of foreign languages out there.
Yeah, you hear more foreign languages out there than you do at the UN. It's really remarkable. You have a chance to hear a lot of, and the thing you have to be careful of is people who speak English with an accent. Now, some of the astronauts might say, "Oh, you're from England." I said, "No, I'm from Australia." It's like, "Oh, okay." I said, "From now on, just say, where are you from?"
Right. Well, there's our astronaut wrangler in the background there with Mike Baker. Mike is a very interesting man to talk to. Twice a pilot.
Penultimate test pilot.
Yeah.
He went to went to the U.S. Navy Test Pilot School at Tuxedo River Naval Air Station, and he also passed up flying the F-18 carrier crawl to go to the Empire Test Pilot School in Farnborough, England, and serve as an instructor there. And it was probably that tick on his resume that set him apart from the rest of the candidates that year, and he got selected.
I asked him why he was twice a pilot and didn't hang around to be a commander, which was the usual thing, and his answer was he got offered the test pilot school to oversee that, I think.
Well, now, as I recall, his test pilot stints came before.
Or he went out to Edwards Air Force Base.
His test pilot stints came before he entered the office, so I would have to go back and check with him as to what his step was after.
Well, he had a good reason why he didn't stick around and be a commander. It seemed like he was going out to Edwards to be over something out there.
He did end up in a partnership with the folks down in West Palm Beach, Pratt Whitney, to develop that engine that to co-develop the deal that brought us the Russian engines. The RS, what was that engine, the Russian engine, Carlton? RL-180, I can't recall. But the Russian engines that fly on the ULA rocket, the Atlas rocket, Mike was involved in I believe, in putting that deal together.
Always fun with the kids.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at Guy Gardner. Look at that young lady there, and you in the background there.
The kids, as I say, just ask the greatest questions, and they approach it with the wonder and the awe that we all once felt at that age. So it's always fun to deal with the.
Once in a while, you get a surprise there. What was this little girl doing? Let's hear what the
with
the whole script there.
She was singing a song to Guy. That's the first time, in my knowledge, that an astronaut has been serenaded on that position. But yeah, she had written a song and she sang it for Guy right there, and she had a trained voice.
Did she?
And Mom had a trained voice. So I think we'll be seeing her in the near future.
I couldn't hear what the song was about, but I'm sure it's about space.
About space, yeah.
And there, and these autographs are cherished by people, but you kind of see some of the same people over and over, don't you? There's a whole family there with Guy.
We have a handful of regulars who collect these autographs, and in the early days, you would get a collector come up with like 12 pieces of stuff, expecting it all to be autographed then and there. So we came up with the idea of, look, 3 autographs and then back in the line if you got a mass of stuff.
Okay.
So they're very good about that, and they hold that 3 autograph limit, drop to the back of the line, and come back with us. And they're very friendly people. They're genuinely and honestly interested in the program. They know the astronauts well from their reputation, from their biographies and such. So they're a lot of fun to see in the autograph line.
Pictures.
Yeah.
Marty, who we got watching today there? I wanted to. Who's our fans out there today kicking our Hurricane Week off here?
But before we give you that, we have a couple of questions and a comment. Ready for that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Nick, when the astronauts give 1 or 2 talks a day for several days, is it the same program?
It may be the same content, but it'll be changed up as far as presentation is concerned. You know, they want to keep it fresh. Some astronauts, we do 2 theater shows a day, and some astronauts 2 different shows for each theater show. Wendy Lawrence, for instance, her first show in the morning will be about STS-114, the first flight after Columbia. And then her second show will be her experience in Russia as a director of operations Russia at the time, and the lead up to her mission, her shuttle mission that went up to the Mir space station. So while content and overall show content might be the same, presentation may differ. They might think of something when they're up on stage that they didn't do the last time. In fact, Winston Scott, on his 3rd day, he'll say, now look, I've been doing this for several days, and I'm going to make you a promise. Every slide I show you, I'm going to tell you something that I did not tell the previous show.
Oh, really?
And so he'll dig out a small fact about that and bring that out. He's able to do that for every slide. So.
I've seen Winston's a few times, I bet, but people forget he's a Top Gun.
He is a naval aviator and flew the F-14, the F-14 Tomcat, and loved that airplane dearly.
Yeah, I want to say Mike Baker, when we were showing pictures of him, he gave an unreal geology class of the photographs that you were looking at. It's the first time I've seen an astronaut really concentrate. I'll show you some pretty pictures and point out, well, there was my hometown of Pittsburgh or Cleveland or whatever. But he was very detailed, and I really enjoyed his geology lesson.
He's got an especially beautiful picture of Moscow and the surrounding environs, the different airports, the military air base, and just off to the corner you've got Star City.
Yes, I was surprised how close Star City was. I didn't know the geography of that like that. You don't appreciate looking on a map like you do an astronaut's picture from space. Yes, Marty, go ahead.
Okay, Mark Usiak is asking Nick, why isn't the umbilical tower painted red for the SLS like it was for Saturn?
That's an awfully good question, and I would expect that tower has been painted with a resistant paint because, the big thing we face out there is corrosion and rust and so forth. So I expect there is a resistant coat of paint on that tower. Why it is not red, I don't know.
We were questioning about the escape system that they had out there when it says in the Artemis SLS literature that it's the swing arm is the escape system there. But we found out from our friend Pete Charmut, the executive producer of the movie, the Base to Space about the ML2, he said he did some demolition work out there so they can put up a zip line. They're apparently going to have a zip line for the crew when they get out there as a rescue,
Same as
like they did for the shuttle.
And we had a zip line for the Apollo. We had a car that you got into up there on that crew level, and the workers on the pad call it the Tunerville Trolley, after an old comic strip from years and years and years ago. But they could hold the crew and also the White Room crew if need be, and they would slide down that basket down to the bunkers below.
Marty, we've enjoyed a great time with Nick Thomas here. Who else has been enjoying it with us?
Well, before that,
Yes.
Mark Usiak indicated that the Russian engine is an RD-180.
RD-180, thank you.
RD-180,
Very
our
good.
editor, video and copy editor out there, Mark Usiak. He was hoping to be down here.
It's just like the control room. You've always got somebody in the back room backing you up.
That's right. Yes, Marty.
And for Nick, the F-14 was built by Grumman Aerospace, the lunar module company.
That's right. Great story about Grumman. years ago when the F-14 shot down a couple of Libyan MiGs. They went to the factory floor over at Grumman to talk to these people who worked on the Tomcat. And one guy was asked, well, how do you feel about the performance of this airplane? And the guy just looked at the reporter and he said, well, you mess with a cat, you're going to get scratched.
Yeah, go ahead, Marty. Give us a few people out there watching today.
Okay,
Any
well, obviously,
newcomers?
Yeah, Mark Usiak is watching, and Robert Law from Scotland.
Robert Lawson, Scotland.
Yeah. Cynthia Rossi.
Cynthia. I'll bet Cynthia Rossi's seen you perform, do your thing quite a bit. She's local.
And Dave Stange. William Whiting. Mike Cotton is watching.
Hey, Mike.
Ben Usit.
We'll get you some pictures to you here. So, yeah, thank you, Ben, for watching.
Ben Usit. Angela Butler, I'm sorry. Christopher Mick. Ophelia Suderall from
France.
I know France, but I'm trying to think of the city.
Normandy.
And Bruno Lee Costeau.
Okay. Oh, darn. All right. Yeah.
Well, welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everybody. We've enjoyed having you here, Nick. And if they go out to the Space Center, here's a good picture of you and Mike Baker together there.
I think that's Guy, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, Guy.
That's
Yeah,
Guy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that is Guy there.
Gaius
Just,
Maximus.
He's a tall one. He's a
Yeah.
tall astronaut
Yeah.
there. That's one good thing to go out and size them up. Some of them that you think are short aren't, and I was surprised how tall Guy was there. So who's going to be out there? Thank you, Mike Cotton, for supporting the American Space Museum, the Base for Space, a great event, and we got our name out there again in the Hyatt Place. We can't be more grateful for the Hyatt Place letting us use their fabulous facility there. Nick, who's on deck to come up there that you're going to be introducing the next month? Out there.
Right now, we've got Jose Hernandez. He's up there with us. And at the end of this month, beginning of next month, we'll have Anna Fisher coming back. And along the lines of September, we have Don Thomas and Charlie Walker.
Ohionaut Don Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Harrington and Rick Heeb, Mark Lee, EVA guy on the Hubble Space Telescope, Bob Thirsk from Canada, great doctor and a fine astronaut, and John David Bartow, who does a remarkable presentation about the International Space Station, as he was the chief scientist for the station for a few years.
He was. We had him on Stay Curious a couple months ago when we were closed 3 weeks. He was a delightful guy.
Great guy.
Yeah, we really enjoyed him. He lives on Merritt Island, so humble. One of the scientists there. And thank you, Mikey Haddad, for bringing him. They talked about the payload of that mission. And we hope to have Mikey Haddad on Wednesday. We have a fluid situation here with the hurricane. Though it might not be so bad wind-wise, we still have to take the safety of people going to their jobs and back and forth, because one down tree line, one block road could lead to a disaster for anybody, right?
You've got to have the consideration of your people to get home and take care of their families during this time, so that's very important too.
So watch our Facebook. We'll post if we have to cancel any of our programs here, because Mikey's already asked me, are we going to be open for payloads with Mikey on Wednesday? So we'll see all about that. Marty, anything else to clean house with?
Dave Stange said red pigments that are no longer lead based are not very durable. That might be a reason why they're not painted red.
And that launch umbilical tower that we disassembled and we had stored behind headquarters for several years, we had to take that out and we had to get rid of it because it was painted with lead-based paint, and there was concern about the groundwater. So that's probably it. It's the lead content of that red paint that's taken that off the table.
Well, that's interesting, because red fades, and that's why they put lead in it to let it fade. Well, Ann was telling you one about Marty and I. We come out Saturday and we really enjoyed Kathy Thornton. What a woman, what a inspiration to people. And of course, she was an educator up at University of Charlotte, University of Virginia in Charlottesville. The Commodores, Bob Seek and Mike Leinbach went to school there, by the way, two launch directors. I felt like we were taking our time. You had some things for us. We're talking to Kathy, getting things autographed. Marty and I walk away, and he goes, We didn't get a picture. We didn't get a picture. Darn it! And I got it when I heard me and Bob Seek in here a couple years ago. But
KT will be back in November.
oh, will she?
You can see,
Good.
Could see her then.
Well, that's what we love about Nick Thomas is you're promoting our museum, letting people know
Yep.
about us. And you know, I've extended to all these astronauts. They want an after-hours tour of our place. We're proud to show them stuff.
And they've donated some nice autographs on checklists as
Yes,
well.
yes, I've got a couple of checklists. I'll show next time that you're on here. Nick is they're having a checklist. You got an EVA checklist of Winston and Kathy Thornton. That was cool. And Mike Baker. Or no, Guy, you got us a checklist
PLT
of
for the
this,
APU pre-start. And
yeah,
the APU
APU
start.
pre-start
Yeah.
there. So very good. Thank you, sir, so much for embracing
Anytime.
our museum.
Thank you.
I know everybody out there appreciates the fun stories that you hear with Nick Thomas, only here in the American Space Museum and our Stay Curious video podcast. So, Marty, thank you for a great show. I want to
Thank you,
thank
Marty.
and think about our executive director, Karan Conklin, and our whole staff here does a great job of trying to give you quality events and programs that you can't get anywhere else. So we'll look and see what's up for Tuesday tomorrow. If we're not we'll probably be open tomorrow. If we close, it'll probably be Wednesday or Thursday. So I'm sure that Marty and I will be back to see you. Until then, I'm Marquette saying we can't wait to what, Nick? Bridge the space
Space
between us.